I could be like I could help with the moderation. I know I don't usually do it, but I can definitely help speed things along, especially when
Uh,
you guys are going back and forth with the NBA stuff.
well, yeah, that's the problem is that we all have so many opinions, especially on the NBA stuff, and we will never agree. Which is honestly the reason we even have this as a show is because we rarely agree on, on those.
It's
Um,
just so funny. You guys like you're mostly the same, and then you just come out of the woodwork with some of your shit. I'm just like, what the fuck are they arguing about?
it's true. It's true. We are mostly the same. But I just feel like Kamal, you either hate things so much,
You
like you just
just
hate it. And I'm just like, where is this hate coming from? Like, why do you hate it so much? And that's usually my stance. Is my stance isn't even that I'm opposite you.
You're
My
mad.
my stance is just that you shouldn't be that strongly offended
No,
by what it
you
is.
nah. If you're mad about everything, then you'll
I'm not mad about everything. I'm very
exact.
opinionated about some things, but
if
some
you
things that you get upset about, just like
if you
guys,
don't stand for something, you'll fall for
whatever.
anything.
Exactly. There we go, Mike.
I stand for things, all right. And don't let the viewers think that I'm just out here, willy nilly about every topic. I'm just
No,
saying I
you're
might
just
get
tall.
heated.
So when you're sitting down, it still looks like you're standing.
Oh, is that what it is? That's a
Yeah,
secret.
that's the secret.
I just have a note in my note app. All it says in bold text is Cyrus Coleman. That's all that's in the note. I don't know
You
what
just
that means.
you don't know who Cyrus Colman is?
No.
Hold on.
Yeah.
For the
Go ahead.
viewers who are feeling left out, I don't know who Cyrus Coleman is either. Just for the record, Cyrus Coleman.
Cyrus with a Y, C.
There's really no
CY, yeah.
there's no outstanding like results here. I got on Facebook Coleman Cyrus. Maybe you were writing it first name last.
Cyrus Clark Coleman.
Cyrus Coleman, person, pictures, information. Um,
Let me see. I wrote it on Friday.
1774 to 1834. Is this like a long lost ancestor of yours? Born in Ashby,
Mm,
Middlesex, Massachusetts.
doesn't ring a bell.
Okay,
Is this really how
yeah.
we're gonna start this podcast? All right, wait, hold on, hold
Okay, well, Spoiler Bay
on.
Podcast, episode 25. We're
Hello,
gonna
guys.
name this. We're gonna name this episode Cyrus Coleman.
No reason.
No. So we're back,
Yes.
and
Better than
we.
ever.
I mean, speak for yourself. We are talking about.
Well, just to recap, thank you for anyone and the two
Oh
people who
yeah,
watched
many
the
people.
Valentine's Day episode.
What were our views like for that?
I haven't even looked at it. I think I've actively avoided looking at it, but
Yeah, honestly, I've been like, I haven't looked at the numbers either. But
just want to
let's,
put up the product and work on it, right?
yes, thank you for everyone who is, watching weekly. And 14 views. I just
Thank
looked at it.
you for watching.
14 views, not bad. Honestly,
Oh, I
the
didn't
one
want to
before
know.
that,
You ruined it.
well, now you know. The one before that, 10 views. So improvement. Um, but yeah,
Thank you to that one person.
that watched it 14 times.
We're here for you.
I'm not going to lie. I probably clicked on the video like 3 times.
Yeah,
So I
I mean,
calculated
That's a
I
it.
usually
strategy.
no, but
No, it's not.
you make a no, but you make a good point though because like I mean we should be in the business of getting views. Not saying that we should fake views by watching the video on multiple devices ourselves, but like I don't think it's hurtful to watch it on my phone, to get those views up, right? If it gets us from 14 to 15, why not? We need that. No one's
I
counting.
think maybe we should take a page from some of these, Tinder stars or whatever, and you
Start
want me to
fucking
fill
on
Oh, I
my
see where this
place
camera.
is
with
going.
bubbles and
Oh, oh,
girls in bikinis?
Oh, we're just
oh,
gonna create content that's just gonna drive clicks.
oh!
Right.
I thought you were gonna say like start an
Well,
OnlyFans and
yeah, I
just
thought you were
start
going with that also.
like he's like, yeah, we can't. The podcast won't be on YouTube if we start having sex on camera, guys. We can't do
Yeah,
that.
we gotta
Listen,
move to some other channel.
I already run several OnlyFans. Okay, I got computer work.
Wow,
No,
that's That is its own episode there.
You learn something new every day. But
I think that's what Cyrus Coleman means.
what if Cyrus Coleman is
His
your
stage name.
like alter ego? Yeah,
Yes.
I like that.
I'm gonna have to look.
That's
I'm going to Google that after the show.
every Google account I make is a different name.
Let's not get into that now.
So in light of the Valentine's episode, I was listening back to it and like just thinking after we were done recording, and like at least for me, it's always the case that anytime we're done, there's either topics that I like suddenly think of that I wanted to talk about, or there's like points that I wanted to bring up or make that I forgot during the conversation. And
I never feel that way.
oh
Yeah, I'm always out of breath.
I'm just like, thank God it's over.
That's the way I am. So like
so hungry.
You should do what I do and eat mid
during it. Yeah, I hate it. Let's not get into that.
Should do what I do and bring a 4-course meal in a backpack.
So one thing I was thinking about, I wanted to bring up for the Valentine's Day was this idea that randomly came up in my head. I probably heard it on TV or something. I heard someone refer to their partner as wifey, and I don't know, for some reason that word just like rings in my head. And all right, so this is my take on it. I feel like the term wifey is used by men with girlfriends who they never plan to make their wives.
Bold.
That's why you're a wifey now. That's why you're a wifey. So it's like I'm crowning you with the.
So wait, are we
proverbial title?
Are we talking about these terms in this? If they're in both cases when these terms are used, is it a couple that's together but not married? Because there are couples that are together and not married, and they call like the husband or the man will call his woman his wife, but they're not actually married. And then you're talking about it also like a guy who doesn't plan on ever marrying this woman, but is calling her wifey.
I'm saying I'm being real generalizing right now, but I'm saying that if you're referring to your partner, your female partner as wifey, you're not married to them and you have no intention of marrying them.
That's very bold.
Bold statement. I'm standing by it. I have no evidence to support it. I have no evidence to stand by it to support it. I just feel that like if you have a partner and you're referring to them, that like wifey is like a pet name that like has wife in it, so like it makes them feel like it makes them feel elevated. It makes it feel like you're elevating them, but you're really not. You're really not.
I feel like I've heard different. I feel like I've heard the inverse. Like I've heard situations where guys will use that to distinguish the specific woman from other women that he wouldn't plan to marry. Like a friend would be like, "Oh, that's wifey," and he's like, "Yeah, that's wifey right there."
Yeah, that means that's not my wife. That's my committed girlfriend, but that's not my wife.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, like my point was that. Yeah, I know it sounds bad. My thinking is that it's like it could be. I think like Mike was saying, usually it is a term that you're using to describe like seriousness about it, but it's never you're never calling someone you're actually married to wifey, or you should.
What would you call him?
Huh?
What would you call him?
Not wifey. Not wifey.
Well, just to spite you, if I ever get married, I'm gonna put that's gonna be like the place card or the placard where like it says wifey. Take a picture and then send it to you.
That's what the priest is going to say. I now call you husband and wife.
That would be funny.
That would never happen because there ain't gonna be no priest.
That's fair. Wait.
Anyway,
so you pose this as wifey versus wife, right? So would you say
Yeah.
if a guy who is not married refers to his girlfriend as his wife, then that means that shows he has those intentions, or is it more about just using the term wifey?
Just more to using the term wifey. That like the term wifey is someone like you're not used if you're married to them or like you have your if you plan to marry someone, you're not just calling them constantly calling them wifey.
I don't know if I need to see the
Like
numbers on this.
I don't
I
call
feel
my girlfriend wifey, but your theory would be it's because I
well
really want to marry her.
that's exactly
So I should
it.
by no
You're
no
more like
circumstances call
you're
her
li-
wifey.
you're likely to lean in that direction. If anything, um, your girlfriend should be worried if you start calling her wifey all of a sudden.
Right.
She's like, oh, I'm
This is the end.
I'm on the outs.
it looks like I'm gonna just be a long-term girlfriend.
That's funny. I
But
mean,
like, all
I've
right,
never really thought of it that way, but I can kind of see where you're coming from. So it's funny enough, like you saying this, it makes me want to ask you: is for in your mind, is when a man calls his partner his wifey, is that similar to when a black female, calls her black partner her N word? Because that's what I thought of.
we're going back to my.
Yeah.
So now you're too uncomfortable to say it. Nah,
Well,
I feel like it's different. I feel because like I don't necessarily think that like not planning to marry your partner is like an insult. I feel a little bit. I feel I don't like like being referred to as uh my partner is being a nigga. So that's my feeling about it.
okay, right.
Um, like Mike was saying, like you can use it as like yeah, that's wifey. But like I'm saying,
But I feel like it's also being used like, yeah, that's my nigga right there.
I
Yeah.
don't like that. Yeah, it's all subjective. And like I
Mhm.
said, I have no actual statistics, but I feel like I'm right, so I'm just going to assume that I'm right on this.
Okay, that's not how that
I'm
works.
gonna assume that he's right too.
Yeah.
No, I'm on the other
Anyone
side.
in the comments, let me know if you for a long period were referring to your girlfriend, any men or women referring to their girlfriends as wifey,
Mhm.
and if they are currently married, in the process of being married, or have definite intentions of proposing and being married to that person. Just curious.
I just like the
Not
idea of someone like waking up in the middle of the night and like, I thought of my girlfriend as wifey. Like, what does this mean? Is this
Does that mean we're
the
we're destined to fail?
right? Like,
well. If we go into, I've already believed that marriage. Well, let's not go into it now.
oh, let's not go into the
Let's
marriage.
not go
You
to it.
know,
But
yeah.
What if her name is like a longer version close to wifey, like Wifafria or something? You call her wifey as a
Wife
short
Vanilla,
version.
wife
Wife
Nessa.
and yeah.
it becomes like the trend that like you refer to like your unintended long-term partner as wifey. I'm sure they would like change their name just so they weren't referred to as wifey all the time.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Bold
I,
statement.
I don't know how I feel about pet names in general though. Like I I personally don't like this is I probably even shouldn't be putting this out there at this point. Like babe. I hate hearing other people call their significant other babe, but I feel like that's like the popular one right now. I definitely don't like boo. Wifey
I don't
to
like.
me feels
I
like
hate boo.
wifey feels okay to me, to be honest. Maybe
Eh,
because I never
um,
plan on getting married. I don't know. Now I'm learning a lot about
maybe
myself.
maybe you see. I don't know. I feel like I'm okay with it like being text or written.
But you don't want to
It
hear.
being vocalized, especially bay, boo,
Oh, I hate
uh,
Bay. Hate
uh,
Bay. I don't know. I forgot about that. I forgot how much I hate Bay.
I must be out of it. I don't use any of these.
No, you're
well,
white. You
I'm
use
like,
extra
well, yeah, I'm white.
sweetie.
I
nah, I feel like
mostly
those.
use honey.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Oh, I
I
definitely
didn't
don't
get
like
in a
honey.
relationship with you, but I knew that
I
honey.
definitely don't like honey. I don't like.
What's wrong with honey?
I don't like saying it. I'm. This is all from the masculine. This is all from the men's point of view. The male point of view in the relationship. I don't like.
I love that Kamal is just speaking for all men right now.
Yes, all the time.
Speaking on my maleness.
Yes, the toxic
So I mean,
masculinity in its
I don't
finest.
think honey I've definitely never gotten that, but I hear a lot of people that say like, especially hun. People don't like hun. I feel like they think it's demeaning in a sense, like honey, sweetie. They feel like they're being made to feel
Talk
small.
down too.
Yeah,
Really?
but I always hear I've heard I've read that like online, like women saying they don't like, but usually it's like other women calling women sweetie, like it's kind of
Oh yeah.
condescending,
Oh
like
okay.
that in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, come clean
Oh
off our table, sweetie.
Right. Yeah, it's like you little
yeah.
bitch.
But like, in the context of a relationship, I don't think
Yeah, you're right.
this is
I,
just
it,
like a
What
preference
would
of like hearing it. Like I don't like
what do you
hearing
think?
myself say it. If it sounds weird.
What do you
it's
think
like
Joe Rogan would think of it?
Joe Rogan to
I think he
me.
likes a little bit of pet names for his
I
wife.
think
I
he
think
would
he
say
enjoys the
honey.
yeah.
Baldy.
I think he enjoys the
Is that a pet name or is that him being roasted?
I guess it could be both.
Okay. Speaking of Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
thanks for the transition opportunity, Mike.
Listen, anytime,
he
anytime,
tried
sweetie.
really hard for that alley. He was like,
Right.
I'm gonna get this past to you guys
No matter what.
no matter
Yeah,
what.
I'm keeping the gate pretty tight there, sweetie.
So Kamal shared a video from the Joe Rogan podcast. He had a guest on who, from the title, it said Hotep something or another, right? I don't know if that was in the title, if I just came up with that. But
No, I
uh,
saw Hotep.
I feel like he would definitely fall under the Hotep category just because of his love of Egypt and not believing
It was
in.
the
Uh,
guy called the young Pharaoh, right? Something like that.
I didn't even get his name because we only got a
Oh,
clip of the video. I don't think
oh,
it's his
okay, yeah.
name in the clip that we got. Um, but yeah, for his love of Egypt and not or his belief that Africans or descendants of Africans were in um, the North American region before slavery. So he sent us this video, and this guy was talking about. I guess he was kind of challenging our education on slavery and the slave trade, and maybe it wasn't as
Or
impactful as we imagined it to be, or we told it was.
well, the video was like generally about Black History Month,
Mhm.
and like what it is today, and like the guy who was talking to Joe Rogan was basically saying that there's a lot of false notions and misconceptions regarding Black history, Black and African history when it comes uh, to America,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Which I think we
Um,
kind of all know there's some validity in that. Like he
yeah,
kept saying, like, "Oh, that's his story," or "That's not his story," basically saying that the whitewashing of history to kind of bolster European ideals and achievements, and at the same time, either hiding or just rewriting Black accomplishments or Black history. Which, like, we know that that's true. We know that the way that we're taught in the U.S. is through, I guess, a white gaze or a
oh, for sure.
Eurocentric point of view. So I think for those statements that he was making, I 100% agree, because that's just the reality, and like we've learned that over time.
Yeah,
What bothered me about him in particular were his eyes. His eyes were crazy. Okay,
He
and
had like Kramer eyes.
I don't like using the term crazy because, like, there's that popular Dave Chappelle interview inside the actor studio where he's like, when you use the word crazy, it's dismissive and all that. And I 100% agree. But that guy's eyes were crazy. Like they were just
but
frantic and wild and
I
wide.
feel like it's fair game to describe someone's like physical attributes as
That's
that,
crazy. I'm
like
not saying that
not
what he
their
was
person.
saying is crazy.
No, yeah, you're saying his
I'm
eyes
saying his
had the
eyes are
appearance.
crazy. And it just made me uncomfortable.
I can see that a little bit. I don't. I don't think I watched the video. I think I just had it like playing, and I was listening to it while I was doing other stuff.
Mhm.
Um, 'Cause I don't know. It was
That's the best way to watch it or hear it because those eyes would have
But
taken you out.
but yeah. So I guess quickly, because we're recording this at the start of March, so Black History Month has just ended.
Shout out Black History Month.
Yeah. Wait, I want to ask you guys is do we think Black History Month is a net positive in its current form?
I haven't thought of this question before, so I don't. Maybe I would think of it differently later. But my gut reaction is yes, for the simple fact that I think it's important to kind of spread awareness, and anything that we can do to, and to that guy's point, like we don't, in regular school terms or regular months of school, we don't learn particularly about Black heroes and Black figures in history that like made a difference. But like for me, I'll speak for myself. Like when I was in school, February was always that month where we actually went in depth with certain heroes and we got to do our own research and look into historical figures. And it does give you a sense of pride to see someone who looks like you or comes from the same place as you, and see their accomplishments and see that they're considered like historically significant. So yeah, net gain. I think that there's positive in it. I would say. I'm sure Kamal's gonna tell me about how it's destructive and bad for Black people, but here we go.
Yeah, it's like he's gonna say it's like the Easter of for races.
The Easter races. That's what.
I think it's definitely net positive. I think it's probably it's not what should be the case, but and in its truest form, it should be a good thing. I'm just thinking of, so I told you guys that, I participated in this book forum over the weekend. They were talking about, some faculty were there and they were talking about, teaching a U.S. history class. And so it's one of the classes that I help students like get into and whatever. History 104 and 103 we have. And it's U.S. history basically before and after the Civil War. And the faculty member was saying how a parent called up one day because, they said, I thought my son was in like US history. Like, why is there so much talk of Black history? So, obviously everybody was troubled by that, but it doesn't really surprise me because depending on where you fall and where you stand in society and what you know of American history, like, you might think that you might think like, well, this is not American history. We're talking about African American history, but I think things like Black what do you call them? Black History Month, serve to battle those kinds of stereotypes, those kind of barriers in people's awareness. Like Vaughn said, the more that people are exposed to stuff like that, then the hopefully the better the barriers are broken down. I think if it was just a day long, it would become some kind of joke almost. But we're committing a whole month to it. But I think it is. I would agree with Kavan. I mean, I'm sure seeing somebody, learning that research and seeing somebody like yourself throughout the contributions of history is probably very substantial. And I don't even think it's necessarily has to be something that's always in a net positive in terms of everybody. If it's helpful for Black people, if it's a good thing and it's something that African American people, Black people look forward to, then it's just a net positive in my opinion right there. It doesn't matter how it affects other people. But I'm not saying that, I'm sure for some people that some Black people, they would feel differently. Maybe I don't know. But when I heard that thing about, I thought this was American history. Yeah. That made me think, definitely have things like Black History Month.
Um, yeah, I see. I'm mixed on it. I feel like I can't say it's a net benefit or all right. Just to be contrarian, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say it's not. I'm gonna say it's doing a disservice to further educating people widely about history. Honestly, I feel like I'm not one who thinks it needs to be erased necessarily. I just think that the curriculum, when it comes to introducing African and Black um culture, needs to be completely redistributed and needs to be redone completely.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you go into world history, American history, you have Mesopotamia, you have the cradle
Roman
of
Empire.
civilization, you have the
Yeah.
Greek and Roman Empire, you have the Persians, then you
Mm-hmm.
have the Ottoman Empire, then you go into Egypt, then you go into all the European kingdoms, and
Right.
then you go into America,
And
and
just to point out that little part about Egypt, like
yeah.
they're not even like described as being black people. They're just Egyptians.
Oh,
Like they're
for
not
sure.
Africans.
They're
They're just
they're
Egyptians.
never they're never you never really identify Egyptians as African. They're almost always like even like pop culture, they're always more closely, even though I guess skin wise they're but they're black
They're fairer
Egyptians.
skinned than like
They're
a
fairer skin, but like
Nigerian person.
yeah, but like and that's the thing though. Like as far as Africa being referenced is like just Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
and then you skip over and then like Africa's mentioned with in the slave trade, and then it's the and then that's it.
Right.
That's how. But then American history is just um inventors and things like that, the same, like they've mentioned, the same inventors and creators and things like that, and
Mm-hmm. But okay.
abolitionists and things like that. I
Question for
think
you:
the
if you're saying it's not a positive, are you
um
necessarily saying it's a negative, or are you just saying
I think
it's not helping the
pigeonholing thing,
situation?
if it's not advancing, if it's not pushing things forward and progressing things, it's holding it back, which would make
Mm-hmm.
it a negative in my book.
Okay.
Um, so like Mike was saying, the idea of like why are you talking so much about blacks? I thought you said American history. I guess the white gaze, the white European centric perspective on it is has kind of laid bare like people in this country's understanding of how the world operates and what the dynamics were.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like in the podcast, the guy was mentioning how they talk all the time about European kingdoms and kings and monarchs that really have nothing to do with the Americans today, right?
Right.
But then when it comes to mentioning for one, because of the often because of the slave trade, those roots have been lost. But there is no mention of the black kings and kingdoms and the monarchies that existed. I mean, for God's sakes, Africa is the second most populated continent in the world, has over 50 nations with uh, each with diverse regions,
Mm-hmm.
different cultures and histories. Africa isn't just one blob of feed the children commercials. It's not like that's not all it is.
Right.
Um, and I just find it interesting that like in the story, like if you think of it this way, even in this history of telling American history, we go back and we tell about these European explorers, right? We
Mm-hmm.
tell the backstory of like the first people who came here, or like talk about how the country was in like the centuries that led up to the European explorers coming and settling, or not settling, uh, conquering the American mainland. But like you don't do that for that's never done about Africa, about all the kings and queens and the nation states that existed on the continent of Africa, and then how that led to um, and how it led to in the slave trade and the capture and the bringing over of African slaves to America.
Right, and I think to we'll just call him Young Pharaohs, which is kind of a ridiculous name if you're not a rapper. But to Young Pharaoh's point, um, we have this whitewashed education, and it's whitewashed for a reason, right? That's to make us feel like we began as slaves, like our history begins with slavery, and our story developed from there, and we go into we'll always hear about Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and those leaders that came out of the slavery and abolitionist movement, but they don't want us to know about our, like, I guess you could say, our peak or our highest accomplishments, which were being heads of civilizations and being leaders in technology and being able to help Europeans end their suffering in the Black Plague and things like that. So, yeah, I think it's just to get more to the video and what that guy was talking about. I love that he was able to challenge my thinking, because to begin with, I'll say this right off the bat: whenever Hotep is speaking on things of history and science in particular, I'm always kind of like, I don't know where you're gonna go with this. But I kind of came around to him towards the end, because I was like, we already know that they rewrite history, so maybe I should be more open to the idea of when they were talking about the majority of slaves already being in this country, and like, why couldn't Africans have traveled? There's proof or evidence to suggest that Africans had already traveled to South America, so they could have gotten to South America, which is connected by land masses to North America. Like, it's not that far of a stretch to imagine that there could have been people of African descent already in North America. And his, what I think made it difficult for me to appreciate his comments, where he didn't really have a lot of hard evidence. He was just saying it something along the lines of, it doesn't sound economical to me, or it doesn't seem like it would have happened that way, which is like kind of hard to argue or make an argument with, because he doesn't have facts.
That's not based on like evidence. That's like you're feeling like it doesn't.
Right. But to his point, like, if we know that Africans got to South America, it's not a huge stretch to say that Africans could have been in North America as well. Now, I can't speak to the numbers. I can't speak to how the populations grew during that time, and if it's like actually possible for the amount of slaves that we know were in America to have all come through just generations of people, or also the slave ships passing through. Like, I don't know what those numbers would look like, but I will acknowledge that, one, he's not crazy for saying that white people lie about shit that happened a long time ago, and we can't prove otherwise. And two, Black people were definitely competent enough to travel in boats, and there's evidence of that. So why is it like ridiculous to think that they didn't get to North America also? So I'm kind of crazy eyes is not so crazy to me. Speaking of crazy eyes and crazy tears.
Yeah. About it. Oh.
What? No, we're moving on. We're
moving on. Oh, we're going to Mr.
We're going to crazy tears.
Okay.
Van Jones. So just a little backstory here. I had sent Kamal a video about a popular podcaster, kind of media personality, Van Lathan, who I follow.
Formerly of TMZ.
Formerly of TMZ, popular, who became popular from his Kanye argument while he was with TMZ during Kanye's TMZ interview that people said that should be in an institution.
So what, the Ye during the Ye promotion?
Yeah, during the Ye promotion, yeah. So Van Lathan was jokingly critical of Van Jones because of his affiliations with Trump. He was saying that
Okay.
black people.
Oh wait, just for people, so everyone knows, if you don't know, Van Jones is a black uh a
Person.
black CN, a black CNN
Fire.
contributor who I describe as who cries a lot. He's the black bald guy with glasses who cries a lot on CNN.
Yes.
So yes, continue.
I'd like to say that Van Jones should be known for a lot of other things besides his peers on television. But Kamal is minimizing his role in the world as a black crier. So
Every other time I see him on TV, he's crying about something.
So Van Jones, let's talk about the positives first, right? So Van Jones is, I guess I would say, a popular analyst or commenter on CNN.
Yeah, he's gotten his own show and stuff.
Right.
Talking head.
I believe he's signed to Jay-Z or under Jay-Z's management. He does a lot of work with prison reform alongside Jay-Z and his other partners and all that. So definitely
I thought you meant like to his label. It's like you tell me this guy's a rapper.
He's not a rapper, but Jay-Z.
Jay-Z doesn't do music management. Well, Rock Nation does.
Rock Nation, yeah.
Yeah, but like he's not okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
Title.
His album comes out next week. Is what we were basically saying. Real tears. So Van Jones is often under fire, particularly from the black community. Because basically what Van Lathan was saying is that black people don't trust him because he seems to cozy up to these white people that are in power, and we all know how
black people feel about white people in power, especially especially conservatives. Yeah, he was also he was photographed with Candace Owens like 3 years ago.
Yeah,
if you don't know who she is, she's a conservative
traitor.
black.
I was gonna say a troll. I was
gonna say I was gonna build up to the insults. Gosh, guys, but yeah, I was gonna save my slurs to the. I was gonna save the slurs to the end and build up, but yeah, she's a dancing fool. She loved dancing for them white folks.
I will say publicly, I am not a fan of bashing black women, but she's really testing my patience.
She's getting bashed every moment of every day. But yeah, so he was photographed with her like 3 years ago. I think it might that at that time she wasn't exactly as super like polarized and like racist and popular.
She didn't get a sniff of the money yet.
Mm-hmm.
She was on the rise, but and he's also like he's working on he's just finished working with Meghan McCain on some documentary about like healing America's divide, some BS like that. But so yeah, the long and short of it is
very inappropriate, Michael.
That's me healing America's divide.
So we're not gonna touch that.
With a 10-foot pole.
But yeah, so like Mike, what do you think about like Van Jones? Like, what do you think about like a guy in that position? Like,
he's trying to do the right thing. Just for Mike to go on, he's trying to do the right thing. He's getting people out of prison, right? But he's definitely cozying up to some people we don't like. Is it justified? Like, is he cool? Is he not cool? Man. What do you think?
You say so. You're asking, is he justified because of the good work that he does?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
basically.
So,
but I thought so. If he's on CNN, if he's on CNN, wouldn't he take a more liberal approach, like traditionally a liberal approach, or is he on there just for like a antagonist?
He's a central Democrat. He's not. I mean, he's as progressive as you as a black man on like CNN is allowed to be. So like he's
so like I mean I think
take that with a grain of salt because this is coming from Kamal, who is hypercritical of all.
Wait, I talk about he doesn't. I'm straight all facts. Wait, no,
nothing comes from mainstream.
Don't be dismissing my opinion.
I'm not dismissing it. I'm saying take it with a grain of salt because people who are and Mike has even challenged you on this because Mike has said like, wouldn't you rather have some liberal, progressive type things happening? And you're like, no, fuck that, go all 100% all the way all the time. And Mike said, well, we got some progress. No, isn't that good? And you're like, no, it's not good enough. So I'm just letting people know that your liberal is different from like probably what mainstream liberal comes from. So I think Van would probably fall
I'm
more
not a
in line
liberal.
with.
I'm progressive.
I'm not
There's a
saying you.
difference.
I'm not saying you specifically. I'm saying
Put it this way. Kamal would, if Kamal had his way for everything in Django Unchained, he would have he would have killed the German guy too.
yes, that is
No.
actually kind of funny.
He would have been like, "Thanks for the training." Pow! Bullet in the
No.
head.
If I had my way, we would be fighting for an immediate turnaround to a $15 minimum wage next year, not arguing about will the $15 minimum wage exist in 5 years from now, which is what we're fighting over. We're fighting over will we get to $15 in 2025. That's what we're doing. That's liberalism right there for you.
And
yeah,
to my point, I'm
that's
saying
liberalism.
that
Yes,
liberalism is, I think, fits Van Jones more than progressive. Just to
sure,
because you were saying you were describing him as a central Democrat, but I think which I get where you're coming from your perspective, but I think if you were to just say he's central Democrat, that doesn't highlight his liberal tendencies or his more progressive tendencies. I just wanted to point that point out there. That I think he is on the progressive side to Mike's question. You get Mike. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I think that I would have to respect his like place in terms of what he chooses to, in terms of how he chooses to be perceived and put himself out there. Just having read that that book from the forum that I mentioned, just hearing some of the history of what Black people in our country have had to go through in terms of not pretending, but essentially being not themselves, or trying to please people in order to get a little bit further in life. Not saying that that's Van Jones' position. He could just be that way, which I think is fine. I think that if that's his personal choice, that's fine. But I mean, I could understand this, obviously the problem, like you mentioned with, what was the woman's name? I forget that you mentioned. Conservative. Candace. Yeah. I mean, I think that crosses like obvious lines, and I don't think it's very logical if you really look at the facts. But to say, someone's not liberal enough for you in that position that he's in, I think we have to step back and say like, well, it's his choice to be where he have what what positions he takes, especially if like you're saying, he does work with prisons and stuff like that. Certain people, they have different places in society that may not, challenging things on the news in a radical position, taking radical positions might not be his thing. But I can understand, like, he is somebody who is a Black voice on television, and it's like, come on, man, like, you on the, you getting with us or not, like, I get that, but I could think of a couple of examples that I read about that were very just like sharecroppers in the early 1900s. They the book follows the story of one guy who basically just challenged the head person, not the overseer, but like the I forget what the word is, the boss, basically, and was like, yeah, we're not picking these oranges. It was like in Florida or some shit. We're not picking these oranges for the price you're giving us or whatever per box. And the other guys in the field with him were like, like, you need to like stop it with that shit. Like, I'm all for progressive, but like, I'm not trying to get killed. I'm not trying to like, not have a job and that stuff. So I think that stuff, just not that I believe it should necessarily be slow progression. I just think that's how like the cycle works, or it has worked through time. So I'm getting way off of Van Jones here. I'm sorry.
That's all a part of it because that's it. He like I was telling Kavan about this before, is that like he's I sympathize. He's in a tough spot because you're in a Trump administration, so Trump is in power. Um you have all these corporate and conservative figures in charge, but you're trying to advocate and push forward some type of prison reform. So like um it's like what do you do? Are you trying if you're trying to advance this forward, Trump and the conservatives have all the power. So you need to you have to get to them and convince them and work with them to bring about the change that you want.
Mhm.
And um, and so that's a tough thing because we know how anti working class, anti minority, and just anti decency this past administration was. So it's like you want to do something good. So basically, do the ends justify the means? Does working with these people does getting this reform done justify working with these kind of people? Um, and so I sympathize with him in that fact. And I understand if that was my life's mission and I was trying to get people out of jail and you need to work with people you hated, I can understand uh, sucking it up uh,
Do you
and
think you
going.
would do it?
I don't know. The thing is with this is that on the other side, the criticism is that like it really feels that him and many other liberals have like a very this notion of extending your arm across the aisle, bipartisanship, which always leads to the people you're trying to advocate for getting fucked over. But like but the people who are doing that are always more seem to be equally or more interested in cooperation and compromise and appearing to be um,
Agreeable.
a team player agreeable than actually advocating for the people. So like if you if you're asking for if you're asking for 100, but they're going to my analogy is going to fall apart. So let me not do that.
Last thing this podcast
That's
is crumbling.
It's crawling analogies, right? But so I understand. It's just the idea that like compromising always seems to leave the people you're advocating for with the short end of the stick. They're always the one getting screwed, getting crumbs out of the matter because you're more interested in appeasing the other side in the name of civility and agreeability rather than for the well-being of the people. So like even in his prison reform, it's like it's called what's it called, the First Step Act, something like that, like that, something to that effect. But like the name entails, it's a it's it's okay. It's
a very
something.
lukewarm.
It's something, but it's like it's a one step, and like the fact that anything was done was lauded as amazing. That like prison reform is here, while the range and the effect of the actual legislation was very minuscule, and it was a band-aid on a still gaping wound.
Yeah, and Trump, managed to put to death like 6 or 7 people in the last like month on death row or whatever. So
yeah, and that's what you get, and that's the balance and the trade-off you're making. It's like you're getting this okay legislation that kind of helps some people, but like still leaves the flaws and the foundation still needing to be worked on, but like you've given up so much in order to get that, and you still like the issue is still not there. And the idea is that he, in his compromise and his extending the hand, he's working with people who we know don't who don't have the interests or the best interests or even care about the people he's working with in mind, or even or actively working against these motives. So like if you're you're not kissing, you're hugging up on Candace Owen and Meghan McCain, It's like we know these people don't care. They don't care about black people. They actively are talk against these policies that you're working for, but you want to be the nice agreeable Negro that like it does you a disservice because the people you're working for can't trust in you because we know that the people you're working with aren't trustworthy. So your consistent appeasement toward them, your like you said, agreeability, trying to be agreeable for these people, just makes you look like you're trying to fit in more than do the work.
Speaking of someone who has literally never been agreeable once in his life. Talking about Kyrie Irving once again, and you. We're talking about Kyrie Irving once again. I don't think this is new, but maybe this is like around a year old. But we were just talking about it. I sent Kamal a video of what was it? It was a Fox. It was an FS1 video, right? Two analysts basically talking about the concept of changing the NBA logo.
Two analysts walk into a bar.
Yes. They were talking about changing the logo of the NBA from Jerry West to possibly Kobe Bryant. Would there be other reasonable candidates? Of course, MJ was brought up. The reasons why that wouldn't work were also brought up. But I guess this is all based on a comment from Kyrie, who was saying that they should change the NBA logo to Kobe Bryant. Kamal, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on I
Come on, let the Kyrie slander begin.
I like Kyrie. Let's go through this again. I like Kyrie. I think his heart is in the right place. Like my criticism before is I think his statements and his thought processes are sometimes or often half baked or kind of shaky. And I feel like I don't know. I feel like his suggestion of this is not like there was no good rationale for it. Like at the end of the day, he talked about his justification, and it kind of ended. It kind of, in summary, was I'm a big fan of Kobe. Kobe was my favorite player, my hero growing up. Because Kyrie's our age, so
right.
so he wasn't like as conscientious as a human being as a basketball figure when Jordan was playing and stuff like that. LeBron is his contemporary. So Kobe was playing and winning championships when he was a young kid. So it makes sense. So Kobe was his favorite player. Kobe was his hero, and we just passed the 1 year anniversary of Kobe's passing. So as a fan, he wants to pay tribute. He wants to honor Kobe in all the ways he possibly can, give his favorite player his flowers in any way. That's really the justification he had, because he was talking about the example that Kobe set as an inspiration to future generations. I was like, if you were talking about, so if you're doing that, there are plenty of other players you can also do that. Is it just because Kobe's passed away? Is him being dead a good justification for him to be honored in that way as the pseudo representative of the league going forward? Because we know, if they ever were,
hold on, wait,
right?
Come on.
So
wait.
I'm gonna
just wait. Hold on, sorry. Just you. At least on my end, you froze up a little bit. So if you could just like backtrack a little bit on what you said while it was unclear, because it doesn't. Yeah, it totally drops out when I edit it. So if you could just say it again real quick, because I totally didn't hear what you said.
What was the last thing you heard?
I don't even remember now, but just like
he was saying basically, is Kyrie's reason for pushing forward the idea of Kobe being honored in this way literally because he's dead and met his demise in a very terrible way. Is that his only
enough
reason? Like, is that a
justification,
good? Yeah, is that enough
Is
justification?
that a good enough? Yeah, is that a good enough reason for it? Like, if you were talking about people who contributed, because he was, because Kyrie's comments were also about this being a black league and setting an example and things like that for the generations to come. I was like, well, then like that would be I. There are plenty of also other great black players who contributed to not only the league but the greater African American culture. The first name I think of is Bill Russell. Like if I was thinking if you were any to replace anybody with as the logo of the NBA from a like humanist like cultural standpoint, as like a general humanitarian cultural standpoint, it should be Bill Russell. And if you're talking about just cultural impact to the sport of basketball, it would most definitely be Michael Jordan over Kobe. Like for God's sakes, Kobe has modeled his career and himself as a player largely after Jordan.
Right.
Like Jordan's the guy who like I was saying to you guys transcended the transcended the sport, turned a $1 billion sports league into a multi-billion-dollar international sports league.
Okay, so I mean, I hear you on all those points, and so first thing, I don't think I get why Jordan would be considered, but I don't think it works. And they talked about it in the video also. Like Nike would never let that happen, and I don't think Adidas or any of the other Under Armour, any of the other major sports leagues should let that happen, because you're basically branding the entire NBA as Air Jordan, aka Nike.
And on top of that, I don't think Jordan would be comfortable with that.
I mean,
Jordan, while Jordan is definitely about making his money, he's also still very respectful of the game and the history of the game, and to have himself elevated as the silhouette, the image of basketball in America, I feel like he would.
I don't think he would want that. One, I think it's because he's alive necessarily, and Jerry West is obviously still alive as well. But when the league and this is what I really want to speak to next anyway, so I'll just get into that. So Jerry West, the current NBA logo, is still alive, general manager for the Clippers. But when they were making this logo, it wasn't about impact and importance on the game. It wasn't because Jerry West was the greatest player at the time, or because he had a social or philanthropic, uh, place in the world that made him elevate the league in any way. It was just because it was aesthetically pleasing, and in that photo that the guy who designed the logo, when he was working on it.
And he was left-handed, right? And
right.
He was a left-handed
and the position of it just made sense because Jerry West was left-handed. So my response, I guess, to what you're saying is like, to say that Kobe or Jordan or Bill Russell
or LeBron
should be considered. I don't think it's necessarily. I think the logo isn't as important as we're making it seem. And I think what we should instead put importance in, where Bill Russell does get recognized, is that MVP trophy at the end of the season, whoever wins the finals. To me, absolutely that should be named after Bill Russell, because obviously he has all the rings. But then there's also just the importance and the weight of shaking Bill Russell's hand, getting that trophy from him at the end of the season. To me, that feels like that's an accomplishment. And I've made this argument in other group chats before that, like, I think when Bill Russell dies, knock on wood, I think they should change that name and like make that be the benchmark of like legendary NBA status, like what you've done for the league, but what you've also done outside the league. And I think that's more, to me, like an important commemorative gesture than the logo, because and NBA players will say it all the time, like seeing Bill Russell on the sidelines or shaking Bill Russell's hands at the end of the season when you won the championship. Like that's the moment that you can strive for in real time, and everyone can kind of strive to get that goal. But the NBA logo, it's like, it never really meant that much in the beginning. It's like, why should it really matter now just because Kobe has died? So I think if anything, that it should be in the awards that we get. Like if we name the awards after people, that's more significant to me.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'm totally for that. If you want to change, the MVP award, the MVP is like the most like important, like most like important focused on award. Because I doubt they're going to change the name of the actual NBA title, NBA trophy, the championship trophy.
Mario B.
Like, yeah, so Larry O'Brien now. I think he was the first commissioner or something like that. Yeah, so I doubt they're going to change that, but like name changing, or I don't even know what the MVP trophy is named after.
I don't think it has a name, does it?
If anything, then there you go. Like
the fact that we don't know what it is says enough.
Yeah, the fact, so like that's an easy place for it. Like I guess like I don't really care about the logo. It just feels like because it's Kyrie, it's like what the like your justification is kind of like flimsy, and I'm like, why?
Mike, we're kind of talking a lot here. Yeah, you can get in here. Sorry.
I think I think his justification. I agree. I think it is weak, but at the same time, I can understand why like why Kobe would hold that kind of significance for that kind of change to be merited. Um, because he, regardless of his comparison to other potential candidates for to be the outline of the logo, he's still an NBA hero. He still did a lot outside of the game, inside the game. He's a modern day hero, in that sense. I'm not disagreeing about Bill Russell. I think I probably would side with you, honestly, about, like you said, about shaking his hand and it being in his likeness rather than Kobe. But um, I think the logo is. I feel like it is the kind of thing that you would commemorate someone in that way who is who died like Kobe did, and with a tragic story. Whereas as an award, I mean, an award could be to could be a thing to honor somebody who's died. But I think I don't know. I think it's a sign that the league is catching up. Literally, I forget what the guy's name is. He's the likeness now. I mean, it's an old white guy. Like, not saying that he doesn't have
Jerry West.
Jerry West, yeah. Not saying that he doesn't have his own merits, but I mean, to make it something like Kobe would show the league's moving forward. It's remembering its mainstay people who who's on the tongue of everybody when he died. I mean, it was a global tragedy for his family, but global thing that people talked about. So I would understand him wanting to make it Kobe, but I agree. I think there's definitely other options to consider, and just feeling like he's your favorite and had the most impact for you is not really a good enough reason. And I also wanted to just say a little bit of history about Mr. Russell that I learned about. He would have not had the opportunity to go to the schools that he did and play basketball like he did and go to the NBA, obviously, if he hadn't moved he was from Monroe, Louisiana, which, like, in the time that he was growing up, it was very much Jim Crow South. And his family moved to Oakland, which was part of the Great Migration, and for him to go to San Francisco to play ball, I believe. And but it was an interesting story in the story I read about how bad it was for people like his parents, Bill Russell's parents. It had a story about his dad being at the gas station and how the gas station person wouldn't let him leave until all the white people were served and given gas, and he went to leave because he was tired of waiting, and he put a shotgun in his face. His mother was walking down the street, and there was a story about how she was in a suit and a police officer told her to take the suit off because she couldn't dress like that. So I think that speaks to a larger idea, or it speaks to a larger point. I think that you're talking about also, with how do you compare the impact that certain people have had over each other? Kobe was still very young, but he still had a great impact. But then Bill Russell is I think you used the word legend. I think that's definitely. I don't know if I would compare. I don't know if I would say Kobe is a legend necessarily in that way, because he was
I
just
think he
he
is.
was so much younger. But yeah,
I think I would consider Kobe a legend. Honestly, a part of it being because of the way that he died, right? So like it's like Tupac. Like Tupac
still out
dying
there.
in his Tupac supposedly dying in his prime kind of like sealed him in hip hop history, right? Like
Mm,
I don't know necessarily that Tupac maybe like if Tupac stayed in the game 20 more years and had like maybe four bad albums, or like if like the legacy was able to deteriorate, that can also sometimes like take people out of like the legendary status. But I think when your story is kind of cut short, unfortunately, it can also immediately propel you into legendary status. Like
yeah,
we'll
that's a
never
good
not
point.
talk about Kobe. Well,
Yeah.
it's he's solidified 100%. Um,
Tupac's album with Busta Rhymes. What would Kobe's Busta Rhymes album be?
I don't know.
Just quick correction. Okay, so
Corrections.
the Larry O'Brien was not the first commissioner. He was commissioner for like 10 years in this from the 70s going into the 80s. He was the
A
first
hot
commissioner.
second.
Um, the MVP trophy is named after the actual first commissioner. The was it Morris Loloff?
Cyrus Colman.
No, no, not Cyrus
Full
Colman.
circle. Yeah, that just was it a white guy?
Yeah, they're all named
Yeah,
after white guys.
they're all white
Yeah,
people.
yeah. So yeah, so I do like that idea. But like, let me see if we can do this really quick. So speaking of dead famous people, um, what brought this last? I
I'll
guess
give
this
you five
last
minutes. Go.
this what brought this last
Speed
thing up.
round.
What brought this last thing up was I guess the passing of conservative talk radio host Rush Limbaugh, right? So it brought up the idea because he's a trash human being. And he passed
Was.
away. Yeah, he was. He passed away from lung cancer. I think in the last week or so. Within the last 2 weeks. Um,
You
and
reap what you sow.
there's been this a discussion about how we speak of and um, the kind of reverence you pay for the famous people or people who have passed,
Mm-hmm.
and like whether to use the fact that they're dead, do you now give them a type of reverence because they're dead that maybe either they should or should not have deserved based on the lives they lived. Um, so for like there was a bunch of people when the announcement of Rush dying was that good riddance. Mostly on the liberal left leaning side were saying good riddance or fuck that guy or glad he's dead. Um,
See you later, douchebag.
yeah,
What else you can think of?
and and people on like I guess the conservative side were saying how disrespectful is how great he was. They obviously are going to I guess whitewash what he's actually done and who he was as a person and stuff like that. But it goes to the question of like what kind of reverence do you pay for the dead, right? Because like we spoke about this before about Kobe. After his death, there was a bunch of reverence. There was a lot of reverence and praise and well wishes placed on him and his family and discussing him. But in recapping his life story and discussing who he was as a person, it was brought up about his rape charges and allegations. And a lot of people who were fans or loved Kobe um,
They took that personally.
took it personally, thought it was trying to besmirch his name, muddy his name, disrespectful to his death. and there's this, I guess, this ongoing discussion about like, is it fair to bring up a person's beloved person's character flaws if they're dead? Because so, what do you guys fall on it? Does it?
I'm
does it fall
gonna
up-
go.
so-
I'm gonna go real quick. I'm just thinking about the episode of The Sopranos. You guys probably haven't seen it. That's fine.
If it's in season 5, I haven't seen it. Or
It's
6?
not. It's earlier, I think. It's when Tony's mother dies, and they're all sitting around at her post funeral, whatever that's called, and nobody knows what to say because she was a rotten son of a bitch. Like they start talking literally about how everybody hated her and how she was miserable. So I think that there's a certain, I don't think there's reverence. I think reverence is a too strong a word. I don't think that I should go up to Rush Limbaugh's widow like at the funeral and be like, fuck you, like you piece of shit husband's finally dead. I don't think I should do that, but I think the next day, that's it. Like, he's dead, he had his day, and that's it. you know
So wait, but like, so now, do we have like, so is that like a lasting rule that we have that that's how we treat all of them, or is it just like the people we don't like or we disagree with, or?
I think it's everybody. I think it's everybody. Like,
yeah, if you messed up in life, like I think it's all fair game. Like, I don't care if you were
but that's obviously not the way it's
yeah, I mean that's not the way it goes, but you're asking me how I feel about it. I think
no, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, I think it's all fair game. Like, I think we mentioned MLK because MLK was an adulterer, and like, we can say MLK was an adulterer and that he was a great importance to the civil rights movement. Like, we can say both of those things. And I think like if MLK died today, people would be like, how dare you bring up his adulterous past? But it's like, it's facts,
But no, I think it also goes into intention, right? Because like it depends on like are you trying to tell? Are you
trying to say that he's not credible because he's an adulterer? That's different.
Yeah, like, or if you're trying to tell the full story about the full story of a person's life, then like sugarcoating or like sweeping under the rug their transgressions and their mistakes as public figures, that's one thing. But there's also like people like, oh, I don't like these black people being all reverent and sad about being all holding up this Kobe guy. So I'm gonna just bring up like, hey, do you guys remember that he had these rape allegations?
Yeah, and the funniest thing about it is that Rush Limbaugh probably would have been one of the first people to bring up Kobe's transgressions. So, like,
oh, for sure, I'm sure. Well, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he did. The thing is,
he probably has.
We don't listen to him, so obviously we don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if you go back and like Google it that he brings up something about that because he's a prick. Yeah, and he can go fuck himself in the grave.
Wow.
All right.
On that note,
yeah. Let's finishing on that. We named episode Cyrus Colman or fuck Rush Limbaugh.
No, it should be fuck himself in the grave.
I guess we'll find out. All right. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.